nice positive outcome is that if they're also alive in 75, 76, I think McCartney and Lennon jammed. There would have been a chance of them getting back together, and then they would have made it to then. But the worst side would have been if they would have done something after Abbey Road. It would have been terrible. And like with the Magical Mystery Tour film that came out in black and white on the TV, and everyone was like, "This is terrible, not how it's meant to be viewed." They probably would do something like that. So that's the answers, Mez. I'm going to go straight into the long and winding road. Shall we carry on? Shall we get into it? So this is what I want to talk about with this one. Let me get my thing right. So it's one of my favorite Beatles songs. It's my favorite. It's my mum's favorite Beatles song. I think it's one of Paul McCartney's best songs in terms of chord progressions, melody, arrangement, and emotional weight. Because you get someone like Martha, My Dear, that's great on piano. It's technical, it's whimsical, it's great in terms of a musical piece, but then the lyrics are about his dog or about someone he likes or love interest. Doesn't make sense. They don't match up as much. But Long and Winding Road's perfect. It has a good ambiguity. It's not directed at one person in particular. Again, I think part of it might be the John Lennon Yoko Ono car crash mixed in with maybe like Linda stuff. That's what's good about it. It's relatable. But why is Lennon playing such horrific bass on it? Horrific bass. Now, to the point of sabotaging it. Now, before I went into the film, I read Revolution in the Head, and the author Ian MacDonald, he defends the Phil Spector string augmentation in the song, saying that, it saves the naked version. You had to let it be naked. And essentially, Long and Winding Road is just a run through of the song with a good McCartney vocal. Essentially, it's just John Lennon, Paul McCartney on bass and piano respectively. But there's no less than 10 major mistakes throughout the whole of that song on bass. These include repeated wrong notes, dropping out, fumbles, vague glissandos to nowhere, and just missed stops completely. And a little later on, when George Martin's reconfiguring the mic setup, when they're just like, it's just howling, it's everywhere, and he's saying that John Lennon's bass amp's too loud, you hear Lennon say that he doesn't even know if he's in tune and that he'll have to guess what he's playing. So it makes sense. You're like, okay. And I would say it's a technically demanding song. The chords, there's a lot of quick chords there that need to be kind of around. It's in an awkward key of E flat, which isn't very guitar friendly for you guitar players out there. We like E, we like A, we like D, G is great. F is fine, but you get B flat, E flats, A flats, all those things. It's not as grabbable visually, I would say.
Especially E flat, yeah.
Especially E flat. So what I notice is, so if we are to view this as just a demo recording, what they're doing, what you're seeing on the film is just Paul McCartney almost going through the stops with John Lennon. He's saying, well, why don't you try holding this note? And then they do a take. And later on, Paul McCartney forgets that they even taped it, which I'll get to. Not intended to be released on the Let It Be album. It makes Spector's arrangements more of a success. But in the film, they make a point of telling you that Take Your Hearing appears on the album. They do this with all the songs. The thing you're seeing right now is what's on the Let It Be album. And it's nice when your ear goes,
I love that, yeah.
That's definitely the one. You can just hear it before it comes up. It's like a game, isn't it? I was like, this is the take.
Is that the one?
It was great. So they make a point by telling you that you're hearing it appears in the album, along with all four Beatles listening in the control room discussing whether they want to put strings on it. George also brings up the point that they wouldn't mind getting a tighter take before mixing. Later on, Paul calls it that little thing when Glyn Johns reminds him, like I said. So which is it? Which is it? What are we actually hearing? Because on the recording, you're hearing cymbal overdubs. You're hearing the band take of it. But what it actually is just Paul McCartney and John Lennon. So the film there, again, it comes to this thing of how important is this really? But I guess in terms of the positivity and the happiness surrounding it, what is the film? Why is the film trying to lie to us this way on a seemingly very unimportant thing? Just, you don't need to tell us that the Long and Winding Road, this was the take they used, because technically it's not. There was a lot of overdubs around that time. Like I said, I think the Let It Be album was meant to be scrapped and aborted, but with this whole Alan Klein thing coming in and all the tension, And I think Lennon gave the green light for Spector to save it. And Spector does, you know, a huge overdub session. Now, 1st of April 1970, there's an overdub session for this song. Bearing in mind at this point, so the Get Back film makes you think that they've done the song as you hear it on the album at that time, which is false. So they're doing overdubs. McCartney and George Martin are a few rooms away. Now, the Revolution in the Head book suggests, why couldn't McCartney just go in and re-record his bass part? Like, he's in the same control room. Surely he knows. But I think they didn't know this was happening, which makes sense when McCartney's livid about hearing about Let It Be's coming out, which is why he gets his solo album out before Let It Be comes out and then quits the band with the huge palaver, Lennon throwing a brick through his window, all that kind of fallout. And again, it goes into the thing of like Lennon being quoted as saying that McCartney treated his songs as less than his own in terms of his playing on them. But, you know, I would say McCartney never sabotaged a song, and he left no technical blemish. He might noodle. You listen to stuff like Don't Let Me Down, like the Rooftop versions. He's like playing these 4 notes just over and over and over again. He is noodling. And like with Something, where George Harrison originally was like, he's very all over the place, he's too busy. But, and he appreciated later, Paul McCartney never sabotaged stuff. He played stuff correctly and right, even if it was too much. Whereas Lennon literally doesn't know what he's doing. And it could be down to the heroin he was doing, which does get slightly mentioned when they're all around, aren't they? And Ringo's feeling a bit ill. And he says, yeah, I took some drugs last night and I threw up in an interview, which I'll try and see and link down below, where, yeah, you can hear him burping. He's on like a closed radio, like he's burping and he goes off and throws up and comes back. He's trying heroin for that time. So there are periods where I've seen it as well. He had his, I can't remember what they're listening to. It was maybe some sessions just before the Rooftop concert, and he's got his head in his hands and he's just completely done. Like, I think he was doing a lot of heroin around that point, smoking it because he was scared of injecting. So maybe we're dealing with a dope sick Lennon who just had no idea what he was doing on the bass. And I think, again, it goes back to that thing of McCartney relenting and just going, you know what, like, I've just got to take off what I want this album to be. I'm in a group with people. Let's just see what happens. Maybe he just made his mind up of, you know, like you said, the Long and Winding Road's probably for the next album. He's probably thinking an album ahead. But if I look through my knowledge, let's have a look. Do we think this is an instance of misleading the audience to perpetrate a positive and happy narrative at the time through this Long and Winding Road, maybe not mentioning it? Or do you think I'm trying to make a mountain out of a molehill? Mez, give me your honest answer. Come on, lad.
I don't know. The whole lying thing seems a bit weird. Again, if it's a thing like I mentioned earlier with obviously Lennon's not here to defend himself anymore, but would he really be bothered if he was? Like, he really going to be fussed about that? He really going to be? I don't think he would be. I think he'd just be like, whatever. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Now you mention it, like the whole thing of like not falsifying us. Well, okay, we'll call it that. Actually, that's a lovely photo. Actually, it's even better with you poking over the top.
I'm going to interject very quickly just to add, because I realized that I didn't say it clearly or whatever. To think about, also add in this: if John Lennon had played the bass perfectly and played the right notes, they would have maybe got the take. And it would have been on the album, right? But you got to think, okay, if the Let It Be sessions were that bad, they got Phil Spector in to do arrangements to essentially cover up these mistakes, because it's terrible. I'm not talking like a little fluff like they had in maybe the first couple of albums where you just had to do it. They're really, really bad. It's someone who does not know how to play the song. Phil Spector had to be brought in. McCartney hears it, goes livid, releases his album, and quits the Beatles. So as small as that thing might be, that the film is depicting it as this is how they got it on the day, actually it could be the fact that that bass line is very connected to the fact that the Beatles broke up.
I mean, yeah, I don't think it's a I don't think it's a small thing, to be honest. I mean, McCartney's. You see the point of view of George Harrison and John Lennon. Ringo kind of stays relatively quiet for it, but in terms of McCartney being boss, maybe he hits a point where he's just like, I've had enough. I'm trying to manage these people. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to write songs for them.
Yeah.
And my main co-writer can't even be asked to learn one of my
One of my
main
songs,
tunes
yeah.
on the album. So why should I bother anymore? Why?
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
McCartney doesn't need anyone, especially not at that time. He doesn't need anyone to help him write, to help him record. He's chilling. McCartney in 70, 69, 70, he does not need a soul. So maybe he hit a point where he was just like, you know what, screw this. Why should I make this effort? Why should I have to deal with John Lennon smoking dope, turn up every day, not knowing how to play bass? Why should I have to deal with George Harrison losing his temper because of I'm being a bit bossy? You know, why should I have to deal with Ringo falling asleep in the corner when I'm trying to play a bloody song, trying to get a takedown? I could see that. I could see that angle. And I mean, you know, as I said before, my impression of Paul McCartney was this very sweet, unassuming gentleman. We all have a breaking point, and considering the fact that he was under a lot of pressure at that time, does all this work, really stresses himself out. You know, he's not spending time at home with Linda and Heather, which I'm sure he wants to. He's at the studio day in, day out, working himself into the ground to make sure this album goes off. And John Lennon doesn't learn a bass line. I can understand that attitude if that's the way that went, quite frankly. But the falsifying is obviously it's that Disney gooey, warm feeling at the end, isn't there? It's like, oh, they all got it together and they worked out their differences in the end, and it's just like, okay, maybe for the rooftop gig, but we all know how this story ends. In fact, earlier on, my dear mother Mags lost a screw from her glasses.
Oh,
Very,
no.
very, very small screw, tiny. And she was like, I took them off to clean earlier on, put them on. She went out, and one of the lenses fell out. This is kind of irrelevant. I'm on the floor with my torch out looking for it whilst Let It Be's playing in the background, the movie. And she goes, "You're missing your program, James." And I just looked up and went, "It's all right. I know how it ends. Don't worry."
That is the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oisin,
That's mad though, yeah.
What do you think? Like, am I onto a thread here that one scene of John Lennon messing up bass maybe was the contributing factor to it all breaking down?
To be honest, I've never noticed the bass line on that song ever. I never even went back to listen to it afterwards to think if I could hear it or not. It must be very low in the mix, is it? Like I don't remember it being.
If you hear the Let It Be Naked version, it's so apparent. So I'll link it down.
I'm not that familiar with the Let It Be Naked album, but like even on the Get Back sessions, I didn't notice it too much. But yeah, like I don't think he was sabotaging his songs or that song like you were saying. Although we do know that he didn't like he called a lot of the piano stuff that Paul did granny music, and he didn't really like because Paul was really fond of that kind of sweet era that he grew up with his dad. He always talks about his dad. He played guitar, or I mean, he played the piano at big social gatherings, and you know there'd be a family that, like my family, actually singing and playing songs, you know, on Christmas and New Year's or whatever. And he loved all that music. It's actually surprised. Like I never thought about how many songs are like that. Like there's it's like Let It Be and The Long and Winding Road and Hey Jude. They all coincide in my head. They coexist with each other. They're all that kind of sweet 50s ballady kind of thing. I think they all hated that. Maybe Ringo didn't mind it as much, but I know George and John definitely didn't like that side of Paul's writing.
Yeah.
So that does back up the fact that he may have tried to sabotage that song.
Paul McCartney would
but
never.
then again,
Paul McCartney would never play. He'd always play something correct, at least.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly, yeah,
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
surely Paul McCartney would know that.
yeah.
But sorry
yeah.
to cut you off. Like again,
But-
keep going.
Yeah, but then again, we do see, you know, like there's the scene in the first episode where John Lennon, he comes in late and he's wearing the same clothes as the day before. Like you see exactly, you know, and everyone's kind of like, no one's saying it. It's just assumed that he's, you know, been doing smack all night or whatever, you know.
Which he had been.
Exactly, yeah. Like it's never said, of course, because it's on Disney Plus. Well, that's the thing. I was expecting in this film. Do you know the way? Like, I would say this is. Do you know the way we were saying about the box sets?
Yeah.
The way the traditional box set that used to come out was like a discography box set, and it was like going through the whole career, like with the anthology, it goes through the whole career, and they've got like they come in with you know, Paul McCartney on that year, and he's looking back on it. Like there's none of that. Like it's kind of like a further development. It's something that's been on the cutting room floor for years, and it's literally that tells the story itself. There's no like, in hindsight, oh, that's what I was saying there. It's like the material, it is what it is. Like, and that tells the story, not like added things in later. So yeah, you kind of have to decipher a lot of things yourself, you know.
Indeed. Especially if you're not if you're only a casual Beatles listener, or not even. I'd say, like, again, I'm talking like super nerdy, almost conspiracy theory level stuff here, where I'm talking about one scene in the film which does not ruin the chronology of anything of the Beatles, their history or their timeline. But I do really think if you compare John Lennon's bass part to the presence of Yoko Ono, I really think that the bass part is more important to the reason why they broke up than Yoko Ono was, even if there were tensions. But really think about it. If everything was played correctly, they wouldn't have scrapped the album necessarily. They wouldn't have had to do schmaltzy overdubs with Spectre. I mean, I know there's the whole Alan Klein thing and different camps and things, but, you know, McCartney would have known about it coming out, but McCartney went livid, and then knowing that project was going to come out, put his album ahead of it. So, like,
yeah,
it sounds really small, but like, if I'm going to light up my Beatles brain, that's going to be my theory going ahead. Like, really, like,
well, like, do you know, for years, Paul McCartney, he didn't, in the 70s, he didn't talk about the Beatles at all in interviews.
No.
As far as I know. And I think he was a bit worried about what John would say in the press. Oh, he said this and what, and then he was really more open in the 80s after, and 90s and now, and that's what you hear, the same stories again and again and again of the Beatles since the 90s, you know. But like after Lennon passed away, that's when he was opening up and saying, oh no, it was actually John that split up the Beatles. He came in one day and said, I'm out of the group. But, you know, for years, Paul was initially blamed for the breakup, wasn't he? Because he moved up to Wales, or was it Scotland?
Scotland, yeah.
On his little farm, and he was kind of broke down. He was like, "Oh, get out of here! The Beatles thing, it's all over now, anyway." And like, are you saying that? Like, I don't think he was fed up. I think he would have kept going if John hadn't have left.
You mean kept going on with the Beatles?
Yeah, with the he wouldn't have. I don't think that would have been the thing to burst the balloon. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Obviously, there are other factors, like I'm saying, like, but I think for like nails in the coffin, like there are a handful of nails in the coffin.
I think it would have pissed him. Yeah, obviously it pissed him off, but I don't think. Like, didn't he leave? Did he leave after John said, "I'm leaving the group"? Was that before? You know.
Well, I'm not. I'm not
I'm
sure
not
because
sure.
I'm messing up my like timelines here.
Yeah.
I don't know whether John Lennon said that in a meeting, in an Apple meeting, and then it was kind of
Yeah,
either
I think it
brushed
was.
off, or it was either while they were like signing all the contracts and getting towards these kind of things, whether it was a false threat or whether it was a reaction to McCartney. Because again, I'd say Lennon in particular was always annoyed that McCartney would leak stuff to the press, like I've
Yeah.
done LSD, and it was like, yeah, but you weren't the first person. Like,
Yeah,
stop taking the
exactly. The last
limelight, you
one,
know.
yeah.
So maybe there's a narrative there, but maybe what I'm saying then is like, out of all the nails in the coffin, I think that is one of them. That Long and Winding Road bass playing that was bad enough that contributed to the whole Let It Be fiasco. That was, okay, we need to recover this because we're not putting it out as it is. We're only going to do that in the 2000s, I think it was. We'll get Spectre in, but Lennon approved it. McCartney didn't know, and then McCartney goes livid, and then that's when the whole thing of pushing stuff back. I'm going to put my album out first, and then that all happened because Abbey Road, a lot of that, even like towards the end, after they recorded that, there was just overdubs where it'd be like Ringo going in, like again the cymbal crashes on Long and Winding Road.
Separately, yeah.
Yeah, so it was already in effect. They were kind of broken up before they'd even released Let It Be. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
I think that is like that's just something I've made in my head where I'm like, that makes sense to me. As small as that is, and the film makes it out as just a normal thing, like, hey, they made the song, but it's like, you know what? That could have been a whole section. If this was like a chronology, let's say anthology, right? If they did a remix of the anthology and included bits of this in to really get a better narrative of what Get Back was, you could really splinter off into that Long and Winding Road thing and just go into, yeah, the takes were bad, or all we had to do was this. I'd love to hear McCartney's thoughts on the whole Spectre thing in that regard. I've probably read it in magazines and forgot about it. You know what I mean? It like we said there, the whole George Harrison thing, Lennon on drugs, like there's all these little pockets, even though we've got 6 hours of footage and we're nerds and want more, all these little storylines that, I mean, were they on the big whiteboard in Peter Jackson's office of like, right, we could go into this scene, this scene, this scene. Shall we or shall we not? Do you think that was a thing that they had a lot more optional scenes that they had
I
to
think
take
they
off?
would have had to have done that. There was so
Yeah.
like, even though it's 8 hours, which is a lot, they're editing down 55 hours, so they would have had to structure.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
But,
definitely. I think in the future there's either going to be an extended cut because we've already said that the man who loves add-on stuff is Peter Jackson.
Well, actually,
And
do you know, I saw they're actually releasing this out on a Blu-ray. There's actually a Blu-ray box set coming out, and
Wow.
it doesn't look like there's any additional stuff in it,
Oh.
which is a surprise. That's has surprised a lot of people. They're, I follow people that are talking about it, and they're a bit disappointed.
Yeah. Okay.
Give it time.
Aside, I think it will personally, but
Same.
Yeah.
aside from little boring bits and maybe 2 hour long jams of like one song, what do you lads think they left out?
I
Or do
think they
you?
left out more of Yoko, maybe.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
wasn't a heavy feature,
definitely.
was she?
No, not really.
Well, she was definitely more talkative. Sure, after the first meeting, with George, was it with George? Yeah, they were all giving out. Linda was even giving out saying, "Oh yeah, Yoko spoke for John the whole time. He was too stoned to even talk."
Yeah.
Like, so she definitely did. Like, even when you see Lennon in the studio doing Imagine, she's always saying, "Oh yeah, you should do this," and do it an octave up, a doodle doon doon,
Yeah.
things like that. She was always because she was an artist herself. She wanted.
Yeah.
I think she maybe have seen it as an opportunity to. I don't know. Have some kind of input in it, you know. And she was like in this book, like I was saying, um, she's saying, you know, you don't want. Actually says, if you go out, it's just going to be loads of screaming fans. You don't want that. You want something kind of more out there, kind of like she actually. It's actually a cool thing she suggests. She suggests playing to a load of cardboard cutouts, like, you know, Sergeant Pepper or something like that. I think that would have been really cool.
I think she contributes and it has constructive points. She's not just a manic artist that just screams all the time, which
well, like, there's no way. Like, why is she actually getting on and doing her freak out jams? Like, she's obviously wanting to get, like, as soon as someone says, "Oh, Yoko, do you want to have a scream there?" she's gonna say yes.
Yeah.
So she has like ulterior motives. Yeah,
he's got that.
That's what I think anyway. Like, I know she's just sat there, but like, I think she's kind of like, oh, are they going to ask me to sing? Kind of thing.
I think she sits in a very good position because she does join in on jam sessions and screams and stuff and does her thing. But I think she was aware enough to know, because again, she's essentially married to John Lennon, not literally, but like she's attached to the hip of the guy. She is the closest to getting all of the little bits of information, all the dribs and drabs, what he's saying of what being a Beatle was actually like. So I think she knows that she is in a very good position of, I'm on this line that I don't want to step into this world because I'm going to disrupt it. Because there were points, like a lot of people have said, you got them four together and you try to talk to them, but it's almost like they had this language. And we all know that from being in groups and stuff. I can say Charlotte to Merritt and he's going to laugh. Oisin's like, I don't get it, right? I can say the bakery's open to Merritt. He's going to laugh. You don't understand what I'm on about. So it makes you feel kind of like, well, I don't know what's going on here. So I think Yoko knew all the ins and outs of how they work, but didn't want to step in there and knew she was on that good line. And I think that's great that she chose that decision not to force herself in.
It's like I would compare that to like a nature program where there's a leopard going in for like a weak gazelle, and the camera crew could stop it, but it's nature and you can't stop it because it's gonna happen anyway. It would have happened when you weren't there.
Yeah.
So maybe Yoko's in the same frame of, I want this to be an organic experience. And yeah, also, lads, do you know, I mean, I didn't see her name in the credits when it came to producing this thing. Was she involved? Was she not involved? If she wasn't, do we know why?
Well, she's the head of the Lennon estate, as far as I know. So she obviously must have been involved.
She must have okayed it, in the very least.
I know Sean Lennon is doing a lot more now than her. He was, but yeah, I'm sure she's in the credits. Surely.
I don't think she's an executive producer. I think that's just Ringo and Paul.
It's Ringo and Paul who are main producers.
Maybe she's just part of the Corp or Apple Corp or something like that. But
I like I said, I mean, obviously, like I wanted this to follow on from your point, Marv, about her just being on the cusp and having that sort of position. I mean, I feel like that would have made the whole thing a much more personable, intimate affair, even though it was already quite intimate. I feel like Yoko's going to know. This blows my mind a little bit. Yoko's one of the few, if not the only person on Earth right now that knows exactly how John Lennon felt in so many of these situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just would have she would have been more involved with the process. Or maybe she was, and I'm talking out my ass. But the only two executive producers I saw were Paul and Ringo.
I don't think you are, Mez. And to follow on, I think because of this film and the way she's portrayed in a very positive way, also the realistic way that she was, I think if she now released a documentary saying this is how the Beatles broke up, I think it would get taken seriously and it would be very interesting. I think pre this film, people would go, cash grab, cash grab. You're all lies. I think now she has got some legitimacy, not back, but I think she's definitely more revered. And it's like, you're a good egg. You're a good
I mean,
egg.
well,
That's
yeah.
what you got to say.
I mean, I said it. I mean, I'm not the biggest Beatles nerd, but I also don't know nothing, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So for that reason, for me to sit and watch, as I said, it's quite wholesome to see them kind of sat together, to see, although she's quiet for most of the film, there are points where she does laugh and share moments with John, you know, and it's like Paul airs the fact that he's clearly got no issue with her. Same with Ringo.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. Whereas the classic, as I said, is always the same. Oh, it was all fine until John got with Yoko, and that's very funny of you to say. I'm sure Yoko didn't force John to smoke smack. I'm sure she didn't force him to do any of the number of silly things he did at silly points.
A silly goose, as it were.
So it's a bloody silly little goose, that lad. No,
It's
I'm not going
definitely
to
good for her legacy. This film, like, it's defended her.
Yeah,
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
definitely. And
it's obviously it's kind of a meme at this stage.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know. We've been in bands. I'm sure over the years I've brought a girl into practice, and it's like, oh, what are you bringing Yoko in for? You know, it's like nearly a meme at this point. You know,
Yeah.
So it is a meme. It is a meme. But the issue is, I think it's good for that to happen because obviously the Beatles are the biggest band that have ever existed. So for people to put the blame on her for the biggest band to ever have existed for splitting up kind of sucks. I wouldn't feel good about that. So the fact that people, I mean, I say people don't really say it anymore, obviously, because we've got these resources to hand.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously Paul McCartney nowadays is so happy to talk about the Beatles. Ringo can't say anything except for the words peace and love, which is so comical. I love how much of a cartoon he is now.
Do you know what he said in an interview once? I read it in the paper, which is obviously legitimate, but he was quoted as saying, if I did an autobiography, no, I don't want to do an autobiography because all people would care about is 62 to 70. It's like, yeah.
Well, yeah, mate.
Like,
of
what,
course.
you're just going to be like, and then I got out of Hamburg, and then, oh, I did my solo album, and that was good in 72. It's like, dude, like, even if you're in the Beatles, you know where your bread is buttered. Like, come on, buddy.
There's a really good Mitchell and Webb sketch. Oisin, have you ever seen that Mitchell and Webb look?
Don't think so.
So it's Robert Mitchell, David Mitchell and Robert Webb, the stars of Peep Show. Yeah. They do like a sketch show, and there's one where it's like one of them's a journalist. David Mitchell's a journalist, and Robert Webb is representing Neil Armstrong. And Neil Armstrong has completely given up being a spaceman. He's now a singer-songwriter.
Nice.
Okay.
And the agent is like, right, okay. So let's talk a little bit about Neil before we take you into the room. He does not want to talk about the events of 1969.
Right.
And basically, he doesn't want to be called a spaceman anymore. He doesn't want that. And David Mitchell's like, right, okay. So what do I say to my viewers? What do I say to my readers? And he's like, well, he's a songwriter. So any questions about space, any questions about what he did during that time, he will terminate the interview. And he's like, but what? How do I introduce him then? What am I supposed to say? And he's like, what he says, he's like, okay, so if I'm an alien, came down from Earth, and you've gone, here's Neil Armstrong, what are you going to say? And Robert Webb says, what is it? It's like he's a singing songwriting astronaut or something like that. It's very no, he was the first singer songwriter on the moon.
Nice.
Which is comical as hell, but that's how I see that. Ringo going, people don't want to know about that. What about what I do now? Yeah. What about the Instagram videos I put up going?
That goes back to a common thing where I saw Rick Beato talks about it a lot, where a lot of musicians, they think the latest song they've done is the best thing they've ever done. Yeah. So he's obviously thinking, oh, you know what? Why isn't anyone talking about my solo stuff? You know,
Ringo and the All
You know what
Stars.
I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh
So
man,
he's obviously a bit sickened that he hasn't left. You know, a lot of people aren't interested in that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
there is a real life version of what Merritt talked about. There's a Billy Bob Thornton interview on this Canadian radio show called Q, where obviously he's an actor, he's got a band, and the bloke, interviewing him, just to set up context, is saying that he's been a movie star and been in things. And Billy Bob Thornton is just completely stonewalled and just like, I don't know why you need to bring that up. Like, he's just so not aggressive, like nasty, but like just being so shitty with the guy. I'll link
Just
it
really
down below.
off.
It's just, it's exactly that sketch, but in real life. And it's so cringe. It's
Yeah.
so cringe.
This is kind of the thing, and I mean, I think obviously, yeah, it must get tiring. Oh, you were in the bit. Oh my god, you're such a such. You were in this band. Oh my god, it must get tiring after 50, 60, 70 years. But
Yeah.
Sure, they were all fed up with that question. Will they ever get back together? You know, until John Lennon died. That's when that kind of simmered down a bit. That question.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of did. They didn't want to talk about the Beatles for a while. They all kind of did.
Indeed. And Paul McCartney's really good at the politician answer now. And I'm happy with that, because what more has he got to say? What more has he got to say?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that sort of level, isn't it? Because on top of that, like, I imagine when you leave that bubble, again, we've all been in bands, we've been so close knit and so into it, and then all of a sudden it just stops, and that's the end of it. And you suddenly come out. Imagine coming out of that bubble for whatever reason, and then on every single street corner, there's someone going, "Oh, Marv, will you ever get back together? Oisin, when's the next album coming out? What are you doing now? Is it true the rumors about you joining AC/DC? Do you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
Is Oisin joining AC/DC?
I've heard the rumors.
I've heard it's true. On drums as well.
I've heard the ears are breaking up, and he's joining AC/DC.
He's going to join the Decades. Only be time-based bands.
Hang on, no, the Centuries, isn't it?
Yeah, the Centuries.
The Centuries.
Is there anything anyone's got any points on before we go to the rooftop performance and the classic Police saga that I can't wait to get sunk into?
I just want to get into this next bit, to be honest.
Oisin, what are you saying?
I was just gonna say, before they get up onto the roof, they have the chat, you know, like it's suggested, and they go. There's that scene where they kind of scout out the roof, and they think, "Oh, will it be held up?" And this is where the only bit in my mind where kind of Lennon takes charge again, where Paul's like, "Oh, we won't discuss it, you know. We won't discuss, like, if we're going." And Michael Lindsay Hogg, the director, is like, you know, we need to end it. Like, what are we ending it with? Or do you want to do it or not? My guys are good to go up to the cameras. Come on, we need to do it. And then, you know, Ringo's like, I'd like to go up on the roof. And then John is like, I think we'd be mad not to do it. You know, we'll just do it. We'll just do it. And it's kind of like Lennon or McCartney kind of does it in a huff. Well, it seems like in that. It's portrayed as that, you know, in that little scene. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say before they got onto the roof.
They get that. I agree. You can see that I think McCartney just wants decisions.
I don't know. He thinks it's a kind of a compromise, because they had all these mad suggestions, like getting all their fans to go on a boat and pick them up, and
the Colosseum,
the Colosseum,
so much stuff. I think McCartney, from what I can gather from the film, he wants decisions to be made from it needs to make sense from how you've got from the suggestion to the solution, where the roof, like you said, it just seems like I don't want to go anywhere. And it's a bit lazy, but it made sense. And it's funny because George Harrison's like, I don't want to go on the roof. Like, I really don't. But again, this level of respect from Ringo. I think Ringo is the oldest. If not, it's Lennon.
He is,
But Ringo's just like, very calmly. He doesn't demand it. He just goes, I'd like to go on the roof. And everyone's just suddenly like, Ringo said, if Ringo says yes, then I'm going to do it. I really like that aspect of it.
I love that about it really does show, like, he doesn't say much, but you can see how much respect they have for Ringo. They really do think he's great. Actually, a thing that I didn't notice until I rewatched scenes. They don't really call him Ringo. They call him Rich, or is it kind of jokey? Is that, oh well, Richard? Do you know? Or is it like, do they actually call him Richard?
I think they probably call him Rich or Richie because they're probably used to Ringo being like when they're on stage. Yeah. But I mean, Paul's first name's James. It's James Paul McCartney.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just called Paul. But yeah, like the Ringo thing is almost like with some kind of monster, the Metallica documentary with Kirk Hammett. He doesn't say a lot. And the thing is with Kirk Hammett is that, I mean, Hetfield and Lars Ulrich are way more of a dictatorship in that band.
Yeah.
Hammett doesn't have much of a say, even to the point of Hammett's playing things that James Hetfield's told him to play. So kind of like the Paul George thing that did happen in certain sessions. But there are bits where Hammett does say certain things that are like underhanded, and you're like, you've personified it. You've summed everything up right up there.
Yeah.
But not from like a respect point of view. It's like from a frustration point of view, where I can't remember what they're talking about. I think they're talking about like getting the new bass players in, and then he says something like, "Yeah, like I've been told to play for the last 20 years or something," referencing the fact that he's definitely a way better guitarist than I would assume everyone thinks he is, because it's just fun to just dump on Kirk Hammett. But it's because Hetfield's had this control of like, you need to play this, you need to play that. You listen to the demos, that's what he's playing. And
like it, yeah. So what you're saying, that he's compromising what he would actually like to play? So
I think Kirk Hammett is a way better guitar player off Metallica records than they allow him to be, because if you listen to some demos, especially Load Reload era, where a lot of it, because it was more streamlined, following the vein of the Black Album, a lot of it is just very pentatonic based. And when I say that, maybe for a layman guitar player, it's stock traditional licks or phrases that can be
bluesy licks.
Bluesy licks are things that are easy to grab and just play.
It's bread and butter
as a beginner guitar player, but to make it obviously sound great is a more intermediate thing. But it just becomes very, very simple, and you can just tell that he's a much better player than he is.
In fact, they have it in Iron Maiden. That's what they say about Dave Murray. He doesn't say much. When he comes out with something, it's just, if someone's having a disagreement or someone can't decide what to do, the rest of them will stand there looking at him like completely aghast, like, why didn't we get him to say that 2 hours ago? You know, and I feel like
kettle boiling. He's kind of like on the back burner, and it's like,
he's just quietly sat there, and I feel like that's exactly the stance that Ringo takes.
Yeah,
because you're right. There's this quiet, unassuming respect for Ringo, and I mean, when you think about it, especially regarding the rooftop thing, it's he's the one taking most of the risk, because most of the weight he's on top of is kit, and it's surrounding him. And I mean, you boys have seen it as I have. You only have to look when they pan down to John Lennon tapping his feet. Those boards are flexing.
Paul jumps on him. Paul jumps on him, and it's like, it's gone crazy. It's gone crazy.
And they're like, here he comes. I love this, Oisin. We need to make this lad a permanent staple for little bits like this.
He's our audio philologist. Is that a word? I made it
Absolutely.
now. Let's get to the rooftop bit.
Yes.
Can I just say?
Can we just on the note of Ringo? Let's just a shout out to that beautiful red raincoat.
That's his wife's.
Amazing,
that's his wife's.
Isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah,
no
I think
way.
It's his wife's.
Man, I just always thought it was so cool.
It is.
So did I.
And it's
so 60s.
It's practical.
Like when I think of the 60s, I think of that coat.
It's practical as well, because obviously the performance was put off a day, wasn't it, due to bad weather?
Yeah, and it's cold.
So it makes sense that he's going to wear a raincoat. Of course he is. Ringo does seem to be, out of all of them, the most sensible, if I'm honest.
Ringo's MVP. That's what I'm saying. Ringo's MVP.
And a little side note, maybe the respect stems from the fact you're both probably going to cut me off and say, no, it's a miss. Hey, shut up.
Go on.
The fact that when they were at school, they were scared of him because he was hard.
I think that's true.
They were scared of Ringo.
Yeah, they were scared of him because he was like a hard nut.
He was a teddy boy.
Right.
Yeah, he was a teddy boy.
Yeah.
They were scared of him. And
Makes
he
sense.
was older than them. He's older than them as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's the oldest one.
Did they know him? And did they know Ringo in school? I don't know if they did.
I don't think they did. I think Merritt might. I think there is. I think we're in between it. I think they knew of Ringo because he was in Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, and they probably knew.
They met
of,
him in Hamburg.
Yeah, they knew of his reputation of being like kicked out of.
Yeah.
I think that's more likely to be the case. Yeah.
The cabin and that, but the rooftop performance. Can I just say the way they stole the police with just the dumb. I don't know what's going on. It's just the best. It's like
amazing.
It's like it's written for film. It's brilliant.
Oh, they've locked themselves out
Yep.
up there. Sorry, like,
Yep.
oh yeah, we'll just get such and such. And the receptionist, someone I hope she got a promotion because
Yep.
good lord, she was amazing,
She was so good.
amazing. And even
yeah.
like when they found it, was it Glyn who spoke to them, or it was that chap with the glasses?
You had Mal Evans come down.
Mal,
to
yeah, they were both amazing. But the weird thing, I kind of cottoned onto that. I thought they said in the film they had to ask permission.
To ask permission to go on the roof?
Yeah, to like make the noise. He's got some. Look at that.
No, I think they just went on. I think
they just cracked on with it.
Yeah.
And
well, there's discussion about that. They wanted that for the film. They were like, it'd be so cool for the police to shut it down and grab Ringo off the drum kit, and it's like it's done, lads. They wanted to provoke. As far as I'm concerned, they wanted to provoke the police to come in and shut it down.
And there was that moment where Mal reached over and appeared to switch amps off, but I didn't stop hearing guitar.
I did. I did.
I
seen Matt.
Defo.
He switched off George's and John's, but what I think he was doing, I don't think he was relenting to the police. I think what he was doing was just switching them off for a moment, because I think the take they were doing wasn't very good. So what he's done is he switched it off, knowing that obviously they're not going to keep it, then switched it back on. I think he was making it look like with the PA thing about turning it down, that he had done something. It's the same when you get a guest, when we play a gig at a wedding, it's like, you need to do this. You're like, yeah, all right, mate. And you just turn some knob that does nothing. And what I like as well is that I don't know what song it is. I think it's in To Get Back, but they finished Don't Let Me Down, which is a bad take. And without hesitation, so Paul McCartney clocks there's the police. He tries to eyeball Lennon to be like, there's police there. Obviously, Ringo and George know. They finish Don't Let Me Down and go straight into Get Back, straight in. And you can see Paul McCartney just constantly looking back. And then he ad-libs at the end about
but he's delighted.
He's like,
oh, come
he
on.
wanted to be dragged off.
Go on.
Yeah, he's the same as Ringo.
Yeah.
But I thought that was great as well, because it's like, can you imagine being the police officer that stopped the performance?
Yeah, exactly.
The last Beatles performance, and you could tell they clearly, when they're at the rooftop, I'd even say even at the end of when they're in the reception, they knew. They were like, right, I'm making a decision here. This is tough. I'm going to be the guy that shuts down the Beatles.
Something I did notice: the two younger police officers were proper disturbing the peace. We're gonna have to start arresting people in a minute. Clearly, all they'd had was a phone call to say someone's making a tremendous amount of noise on that street.
Yeah.
Can you go and do something about that? And then the sergeant very quite happily just walks along. Good morning. Can I come in? Have I got some officers up there? Clearly, he'd been briefed. The Beatles are on that rooftop. You do not want to stop that performance.
Yeah.
That would be bad. And that is the reason why I think one shot you see them there, and the next they're gone. Because I reckon the sergeant went up and went, "You boys are big fucking shit. Get down here now." You know what I mean? I think that's genuinely what happened.
Yeah.
Because the sergeant, now you're thinking about it, the sergeant was so polite as he entered that building.
He was, yeah.
He was
Did
really.
he not go up on top though?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he did.
He did.
I don't think he did, because the reception woman said, "Oh, go to the 4th floor, she
You
said
won't be able to go up. Yeah.
she said the police officers haven't gone up to the rooftop because of the weight. She says you can't go up because it's not weight bearing or something like that, which I think is another clever ruse. She's just said like, oh, he's trying to find Derek Taylor now. That Jimmy guy probably just walked into a closet and just stood there. They could just tell it was all orchestrated.
I swear I saw police. Well, the police officers were up
You saw
there.
two, yeah, but I don't think the sergeant guy was up there.
I'm so sure I saw his face in one shot because there was it was quite arty actually. I'm sure there was a shot of Paul's face with the sergeant in the background. I'm so sure there was.
Here we go.
There's one of them there now.
That's one of them there.
And they were chewing on their helmet straps. I was
Yeah.
like, these are young lads. They like not long on the job. They were ready to get in there and be like, come on, let's sort this out.
But also, again, now police, I would say, not that they're not scary or not intimidating, but I think there's a lot more social. There's like a face to a policeman now.
Yeah, in the late '60s, it would have been a lot different considering
you would have been
scared.
You would have been scared of the policeman. Yes,
exactly.
I think it's a way more dominating force. So to apply that logic, that's very ballsy of the Beatles to do that, regardless if they're the biggest group in the world. Like, there's still an element of like, you are being put up against the police here. What are you doing? And what I liked as well is that when all those people on the ground and they were doing those little vox pops of like, who do you think this is? And they were like,
I love that.
It's the Beatles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
I loved that they shown a lot of older people being like, it's great. I love him. Yeah. I let my daughter marry him. He's got some money. And there were some younger people being like, nah, I don't like it. I like that because there's so much conjecture of, oh, these kids these days with their stupid music and stuff. And, that myth of older people don't like the current music. That's false narrative. You know what I mean? I loved it.
Yeah.
Well,
I saw,
there was...
Yeah.
There was there was old people saying, "Oh, that's just a load of racket," and it's a disturbing business. But you got the two, and then there was two. It seemed like they were from Central Europe or something, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know who this is,"
Yeah.
So it was cool to see that, but it's just amazing though. In this, like I've seen that in that's also in the original Let It Be film. A lot of that footage, I think maybe they switched it up, they used a bit more, but the thing that is new in this is how clear the picture is, how clear London is in 1969. It looks like a reenactment.
Yeah, it really does.
Like
it's
incredible.
fairly modern. Yeah,
like going back to even like the clothes that the lads or the Beatles are wearing, like George and Ringo, they're wearing these real flash, colorful suits, and it looks so cheesy because you've never seen it so clear. There's no, it looks like a reenactment.
Yeah,
it's nuts. I really enjoyed seeing that. Yeah, for sure, because you always think of that time as like real grainy, but that's obviously not what they saw.
No.
In the moment, but now you're finally seeing how London looked as it was,
Yeah,
and that's for me. That is such a huge part of the overall
experience
effect
of the thing.
Yeah,
I think,
it's very, very immersive in that sort of way. And on top of that, the other thing I loved so the imagery was amazing, but it was stuff like there was a scene at Apple Studios where George Martin was sat down in front of like the organ they had, because they had a piano, the Bluthner. They had the Fender Rhodes, which looked and sounded incredible, and then they had this like two stacked organ, and George Martin was sat in front of it, and behind him was this vintage Coke bottle filled with Coke. I was like, stuff like that, like pop culture, and
so cool.
Like seeing the iconic instruments. That was something I wanted to mention actually. The first episode where Harrison's got his red Les Paul, and he just leans it up willy nilly. He's just like, oh,
and it falls over.
It falls
Actually
over.
Falls over.
Yeah, I was sat there like,
it's just so Lucy.
No, but to him, it's a guitar. It's not, and the Telecaster as well. Beautiful. Good Lord, amazing. Brown, the Strat he decorated himself. When Paul picks up his Rickenbacker and he's like, yeah, it's all right, but it because it's like such a, I don't know what these knobs do. and then you've got the nut where it's like backwards on it, so the strings keep slipping off.
Yeah, they had an issue with his bass for
Yeah.
a good bit of a scene. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, the bass is too loud or whatever. Yeah, they just sorted that out. I haven't talked about Glyn Johns at all. He's in it a lot. He's also very smartly dressed. The outfits that he wears,
Yeah,
is incredible. Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and actually another thing that is crazy about the way recording was done back then is they literally, if you go into like, I can imagine that. Well, obviously, I know how records are made now, but like it's literally, you do not hear any studio chatter anymore. It's literally you record your bit and you chop off the end. But there's 120 hours of audio. Like even when they're just chatting, like these days with digital, you know, you're recording now, and then when you're done, you stop.
Yeah.
Like they just kept it rolling, and that's why we have all these great outtakes. It's just crazy. I just can't believe they like the cost of running the tape must have been insane.
It was 2 shillings a foot.
Yeah, that's
what was said. Yeah,
that's what it said. Yeah, it's just it's amazing. It's a thing that's lost now. You know, we'll never have that in-depth experience.
No, I know
like
what
that
you mean.
again.
indeed.
I do know what you mean, and recording over this weekend has kind of like we've got an intro that's like an instrumental sort of bit of music. Everyone knows what an intro is, and there's a bit just after, so the guitar plays like 3 notes, the first guitar, and then just in between you hear a slight door open and you hear and you don't hear it again.
What did you hear again, Matt? What did you hear, mate? One more time.
Is it when
love the in-jokes, mate.
That upset Oisin.
Yeah, he was.
It reminded me of it reminds me, the way you're describing it reminds me of when Eddie Van Halen comes in and knocks on the door.
Is it in
thing? Thriller?
It's in Beatles.
Beatles, sorry.
Apparently, it's his manager saying don't record, but he just goes for it anyway.
Apparently so. Amazing. I love shit like that, and all the lads are kicking off at it, like, no, we can't have that. And I'm there like, what? It's human. It's so human.
Yeah.
We hear that all the time now. Like, yeah, it adds to the experience.
You've hit the nail on the head. It humanizes the Beatles. It humanizes them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, and that's that thing, you know. It because it leads on to other things, doesn't it? You can then be like, oh, Mez. Obviously, like, people were walking around and talking. What were you doing at that point? And I would just be like, oh, I had a conversation with our bassist Kerith for 2 hours about the US office in our singer's kitchen. It's quite nice, actually. I was drinking coffee at the time. Nice. But that's what it does. It adds another layer to it, I think. And like you were saying, Oisin, like, obviously they must have spent so much money. Well, that was another funny thing in that scene, wasn't it? Where I think it was George Martin that said it. He was like, well, it's 2 shillings a foot, this tape, then. It's costing you. And George Harrison turned around and went, we're EMI artists. It's costing EMI.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah. It was amazing. Is this the first time as well, like, to segue back in? This is a hard segue. It's nice to see the first, to my knowledge, full performance of the rooftop performance. I didn't realize they did one after 909. I didn't realize they did a couple of takes to get back in that. So good to see. So good to see.
It's really cool. It's really cool. And
it's incredible, yeah. And then they even add, when they replay a few songs, I think they replay Get Back and Don't Let Me Down, don't they?
Yeah.
There's a 2 performances of that. That's the thing that I just think it's so cool that obviously watching this whole 8 hours, you've heard these songs again and again and again, and I think it's just magic that 3 of the recordings, as far as I know, 3 of the recordings on the rooftop made the album.
Yeah,
like they were having such a good time, and it reflects in the recording, and that's what made it the take. You know, that's magic to me.
And they go down and listen to it as well.
And they go down and they're like,
Yeah, they're
"Yeah,
loving
that's
it.
pretty good." That. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
But
Very,
like,
very cool.
it's so crazy. Like, I remember thinking the amount of effort we've watched. You know, they've proper put their heart and soul into this, and you think, oh, yeah, like the way you're saying it. You know, we've been kind of saying, oh, it's a bit Disneyfied like that. Like it ended up all great at the end, but then to then think, oh yeah, it might be a triumph, but then it's crazy to think they just went, nah, no, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Jeez.
Let's shelve
after
it.
all
Let's shelve
that,
it.
they were just like, fuck it, we'll shelve it, and just went in the Trident studio the next week and did a whole new thing.
Yeah, wasn't that long, was it? And again, Abbey Road. Look at the the EQ of that whole album, the bass sounds, the drum sounds, like it's so lush, and what a contrast. And
like what it's by far their best sounding album,
without a
sonically.
doubt, even at the time, and I'd say even now, regardless of all the
like the
mixes.
The new remix was the least difference out of the. I think there's 4 of them now, and that's the least different one. It didn't need a remix. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was great from the start, which begs the
From
question: there are probably albums that do not need different mixes. That becomes then a cash grab or some sort of monetary thing, you know.
Yeah.
You know?
But we went in length discussion at that on the last episode.
Yes, there is an audiophile. We got our audiophileologist. I've made that word up now.
Audiophileologist.
Oisin loves being an audiophile, right? He's just there. He's commenting on our Patreon, right? He's saying, yeah, you need to get the best gram vinyls for your experience and all these things, you know. And he's doing that. Patreon.com/50 Ways Podcast. All right. I'm plugging it. Mez, I've learned from the best. You have to plug stuff in, right?
We've got to get in there.
We've got exclusive content, right? It's £3 a month, right? That's
3 squids.
You can't even get a coffee at any popular coffee chain for £3 that's worth drinking. You know what I'm saying? You're getting ones that you're disappointed by. You're not going to get sugar-free syrup. You're not going to get any sweeteners in it. You know, you're getting some baby chino crap. You know what I'm saying? He knows what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
So you might as well bleed and join up. We've got a community there. You know, there's regular posting going on now because, you know, we've got our stuff sorted. We're scheduling, we're doing whatever. There's fun little content. You know, why don't you join up? You get this episode probably about 3-4 days before it comes out, so you can be the envy of all your friends. And if you don't have friends, well, I'm only going to be your friend if you pay me £3 a month. Mez will agree.
I'm paying €4.
There you go.
That's how dedicated.
We're international, baby. That's what we're saying.
I will only be your friend if you subscribe, become a patron, and buy all of the merch.
All of it, even the old stuff. You have to message us directly. Oisin, dedicated. He doesn't need to buy merch. All right. He doesn't.
No, but he's on the same level as us. He's not the peasantry. He's not the peasantry that buys merch. He is now an honorary member of the 50 Ways.
He's above merch. He doesn't need to be lurking down with all the people that need to pay. Yeah, exactly.
He's got the Get Back book and the special edition Let It Be box set.
Exactly.
That was his ticket on here. I said to him, I messaged him, I said, if you ain't got that, you ain't getting on.
Don't come on, mate.
You haven't seen Anthology? You have? All right, yeah. Oh, go on then. Go on then. If you behave.
You've got a ticket to ride them, mate.
Yeah.
What a good segue.
Oisin, get back, mate.
Oh.
Let's get back, actually.
Let's get it back. That's a good little segue to end this. We've had a whole big old long chat about that, and I love it. I think we can all agree this film is fantastic. I think for all the little things that mainly I've been trying to pick apart, because I'd like to try and throw the spanner in the works, you know what I mean? I think for all of those little things that even didn't get brought in, it's excellent. I think for non-musician fans, like our parents, like Merritt's mum especially, where she's like, you know, I don't understand what's going on when they're playing the same song over and over and these chords and things, and we're there like, we get this. Like, this is what happens. You'd go round and round again. Or when you watch them all just jamming incessantly, you're like, yeah, I can see why people think that being a musician is not a job and you're just messing around. But you're like, no, this is just like, you need this release because sometimes it's hectic. It's brilliant. It just makes their legacy even brighter. And I think the things that are coming out of it, like the Let It Be box set, is perfect. Like we said in the last episode, please go watch it. Perfect. What you want is what you need. And I'm interested to see what they're going to bring out next. So, Oisin, what do you think is the next big thing that the Beatles are going to bring out? Let's leave it open. What do you think is the next big release from the Beatles?
Well, they've had such a big year in 2021. Well, obviously because there was so many 50th anniversaries. But there's not really much in 72, but now it's coming back to Please Please Me is having its 60th anniversary.
Yeah.
In 2023, so we could get a Please Please Me box set. But there is speculation about a Revolver box set as well, because it was leaked that he was working on stuff for Revolver. But if they do go, I'd love it. I know. But if they do go from the beginning again, it means we have to wait till what is it, 2026 or 2026 for the Revolver box set. So I hope it comes out soon.
The 60-year one, yeah. Madness.
Yeah, but then I'm sure they're going to do more solo Beatles stuff. I know they're going to actually. I just saw earlier today that they're doing they're streaming it live. There's a live stream of the entire rooftop performance. Yeah. And I think it's a version without it's just the audio. It's just the audio of the rooftop performance. And I think it's without the interruptions. It's without the little segues into, oh yeah, well, who's this? Oh, awesome. Playing on the roof. Yeah, apparently I think it is that. But man, there'll be a remix of everything. There'll be we'll probably get a remake of Magical Mystery Tour or something. I'm sure they'll do everything.
Maybe it will get streamed now. This is, to my knowledge, the only thing that's a Beatles streamed documentary or film. So maybe we'll get some sort of revival on that, because that's hot right now. All the Netflix, Amazon Prime, things like that, Spotify video. Maybe we'll get that. We never know. Mez, what's your prediction? What do you think is the next thing that's going to come out from these four young, fresh starters, these whippersnappers?
They're going to go a long way, man.
Long way.
They're going to go a long way. They're going to be there. They're going to be big, I reckon, in the charts once or twice, I think.
Also, the families they want their dough, man. They need to keep milking.
They need to cream some more off the top. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, I think we're well overdue a George Harrison signature guitar again. Quite frankly.
But which one? The Gretsch?
The Telecaster.
The Telly? That already came out.
It did, but there should be another run.
Yeah. It was a nice £7,000, £8,000.
Yeah, exactly. Who's buying that? I'm not.
Speaking of guitars, I think the winner of this show is Lennon's Epiphone Casino. Isn't that it's got the most character? It's just so much. I think it's the tone all the way rolled all the way back, and it's just that lead when he starts playing.
Yeah.
Like I've never gotten that sound. It's just such a character. It's like Brian May's tone. It's like that character.
Who's that?
We went the whole episode with one Queen reference, and Oisin's the one to bring up Brian May.
Hey, you can't shoot me. Don't shoot the other co-host. Is it the fact that guitar has so much character, or is it the fact that John Lennon's playing it?
John Lennon, I guess.
John Lennon. And again, my theory still holds up. I've never seen a John Lennon guitar solo from start to finish without any cuts in it. And this film still has John Lennon solos that have cuts in it.
Yeah.
I really think that's a weird theory that they've just chucked in there. Oisin, if you don't believe me, try and find me a John Lennon guitar solo from any era that's in full. You can see the whole solo visually.
Or
and
like
audibly.
you think they edit it all the solos, is it?
So not edited as in like comped. So like when
Yeah.
he's playing live, someone like You Can't Do That, which he plays, you never see him play. You never see his fretboard hand and watch him play the whole solo in one go. There's always cuts to other Beatles or the cameras on his face, but I've never found one. Like I would think with Get Back, but really watch his solos and Get Back. It's not a full take. It's not a full clip. And I swear it's a weird conspiracy theory.
Whereas there's full takes of George, is it?
I'm pretty sure there's full takes of George Harrison, but I
think there
again
is, yeah.
could be wrong. I could be wrong. It could be George as well, but I've never seen a John Lennon one. So there you go.
So there we go.
So there we go. And I tell you what, I think we need to end this episode by saying that we've missed out one very, very vital point. And I'm actually disappointed in both of you at this point, right? I'm wearing the weird shirt. The Beatles, I think, win the award for the most cups of tea and toast ever consumed by 4 people ever. It is insane.
And not to mention the amount of cigarettes smoked. Now, 50 Ways podcast listeners may or may not be aware, but old Mez is trying to give up the old smokes. And I'm being very successful. I've got my vape. I've had days where I've had one. It's been going very well. Do you have any idea how difficult it was to watch all of Get Back without at least once thinking, I'm going to have a cigarette, actually?
I bet you were like watching it and then you look down and your hands had just made a rolly. I bet you were like, I just made about 15 cigarettes here.
It was because it does that. It's the part of your brain going, you need it, when in reality I don't, because I'm getting my nicotine from my vape. But I was chaining my vape whilst watching Get Back, and I'm coughing my guts up where I'm smoking it so much. And it's
one realization that I got was you know, the food that they were eating in the 60s, like if it was done in, you know, even 10 years ago, they'd be like, oh yeah, just pop down to McDonald's for me there. You know, there was nothing like that. They were just like, what was it? Sausages and cauliflower and whatever.
Baked beans on toast.
Yeah. There was a clip where they were asking them what they wanted for lunch or something, and George Harrison just went, I'll just have whatever vegetables there are. Is there any cheese sauce for the cauliflower? I'd quite like some cheese sauce on that. And I was just like, this is fucking George Harrison. Like the dude should be able to go, I'll have that now, and it happens. But it wasn't. He just wanted a bit of cauliflower cheese.
Maybe they should have CGI'd some Uber Eats deliveries in there. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
Bit of brand placement, McDonald's and things. But you know,
for the 60th anniversary.
For the 60th anniversary, but we could go on forever and ever and ever. So I've got my friend here. I've got my monkey on my back, right?
That means
Merritt,
lights out.
That means it's lights out. We've had a good old time. Merritt, you know, he wants to say hi, and you know what the friendly greeting is. So can you bring us out with a nice loud belch to say bye?
No, but I will say everyone's got something to hide except Marv and his monkey.
Get it. Gleaning.
That's it, lads. That is it. We went.